Are we seriously attacking a planet that's 70% water? That's like invading a bakery and only targeting the bread. Fleet Commander Zarov exhaled sharply, dragging his three-fingered hand across the ridges of his forehead. The holographic model of Earth spun slowly before him. All that blue made his stomach tighten. Lieutenant Mira tapped her datapad with a smugness that made Zarov briefly fantasize about demoting her. Intelligence reports confirm that humans are terrestrial, sir. Their population hubs, military strongholds, and critical assets are all land-based. The oceans are functionally vacant. Vacant territory, Zarov echoed, each word stretched out like melting resin. Have you even glanced at the bio-index? Because I have. And trust me, those oceans are about as empty as my ex-mate's appreciation for my accomplishments. The command bridge of the Galactic Dominion flagship Inevitable Victory buzzed with tension. Technicians and officers moved briskly, preparing for the assault on Earth. The massive warship, along with 30 others, floated silently just beyond the moon's orbit, cloaked from the crude detection systems used by the primitive species below. After months of monitoring, the Dominion had finally deemed the blue planet a prime candidate for annexation into their ever-growing empire. Captain Locks approached with his usual stiff-legged march, the kind of officer who looked like he'd been carved from the regulations manual itself, complete with a face stuck in permanent mild distress. Sir, aquatic assault units are prepped for launch. We've adapted the Kraken-class subs to withstand Earth's oceanic pressure. The water phase begins in 43 minutes. Zarov stifled another sigh. Remind me again, Captain, why we're starting with the oceans. All the juicy targets are on land. Supreme Command's analysis suggests that seizing the oceans will sever human logistics and communications. Once isolated, continents can be conquered sequentially. Locks recited like a sermon from the Invasion Codex. Also, long-range scans indicate minimal underwater defenses. It's considered the ideal breach point. Ideal, Zarov muttered. Just like my nav instructor said that black hole shortcut was ideal. Still have distortion burns to prove it. He tapped a claw against the command panel. Fine. Launch the aquatic phase, but I want full-spectrum monitoring on all biological activity. Anything bigger than a Glean war crab gets flagged. Sir, with respect, Mira cut in, you seem overly cautious about Earth's marine life. Our weapons can incinerate anything alive. Zarov slowly turned his chair toward her. Lieutenant, do you know how I've survived 17 planetary invasions? Your tactical brilliance, sir? Paranoia, he corrected. Cold, crawling paranoia. When something looks easy, it usually means you're about to lose your tail fin. He jabbed a finger toward the spinning blue sphere on the display. And this is looking way too easy. 12 hours later, Zarov's paranoia was starting to look prophetic. What do you mean we've lost contact with Delta Group? He barked, leaning forward in his chair as the once confident bridge shifted into a mood of quiet dread. Officer Jex, stuck with delivering the bad news, gulped. Full comms blackout, sir. All 15 Kraken-class subs, gone. Crew total, 823. Last ping was from the region humans call the Mariana Trench. No distress signals? Emergency beacons? Nothing, sir. They just vanished. Zarov pinched the center of his forehead, at least the closest thing his species had to one. And the other assault teams? Captain Locke stepped forward, datapad in hand. Alpha and Gamma are reporting minor resistance in the Arctic and Atlantic sectors. Forward outposts established per mission plan. Beta's experiencing anomalous interference in the Pacific but remains active. Echo is descending into the Indian Ocean without incident. Anomalous interference? Zarov echoed. Care to elaborate? Locke shifted awkwardly. They reported singing, sir. Singing? Zarov repeated, deadpan. As in lullabies before slaughter or something more death metal? Unknown, sir. The audio feed was degraded. But they also registered multiple large, unidentified biosigns converging on their position. Zarov rose in a flash. Show me their last coordinates. The holographic globe zoomed in, first to Earth, then the Pacific, finally settling near a region the humans called Hawaii. Deploy a stealth probe, immediately, and reroute Echo to reinforce Beta. But sir, Mira protested, that contradicts invasion protocol. Supreme Command isn't watching entire squads vanish in an alien sea, Zarov snapped. Something's down there. No, Zarov said flatly. We're not sending another unit into that abyss until we know exactly what we're dealing with. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Assault Group Beta was facing what Tactical Officer Plex would later describe, through clenched mandibles and trauma-induced stammering, as an absolute nightmare of aquatic proportions. The 5 Kraken-class submarines, flagship marvels of Dominion engineering, had been built for one purpose: deep-sea domination. Reinforced hulls, crush-proof armor, and sonar arrays so precise they could track a jellyworm's heartbeat from 10 clicks out. They were virtually invincible against known threats. Keyword, known. What in the 7 moons is that? Commander Tulak whispered, eyes locked on the sonar display. A vast signature was approaching. Too big, too fast, and too coordinated. Whatever it was, it didn't fit any known classification. Sir, said Communications Officer Wren, adjusting her headset. The singing, it's louder, and it's changed. Changed how? Tulak asked. It started as one voice. Now it's hundreds, harmonized, perfectly synced. Her face paled. It's beautiful, in a terrifying way. Tulak hit the external light controls. Beams pierced the murky blue. At first, nothing. Just particulate drifting like dust in liquid night. Then, movement. Tiny reflections danced in the beams. At first glance, a swarm of small creatures. But as the mass surged closer, the illusion shattered. They weren't small, and they weren't creatures. They were humanoid, and they were closing. In fast, unnaturally fast, swimming with eerie coordination and impossible grace. Sir, that looks like mer people. Weapons Officer Krau's voice cracked. They didn't mention mer people in the briefings. Intelligence said nothing about aquatic bipeds. Tulak growled, fingers tightening on the console. Raise shields, prepare to... He never finished the order. The first of the creatures reached the sub. With inhuman precision, it slapped a device onto the hull. Boom! A muffled blast rocked the vessel. Hull breach! Section 4! A systems tech yelled. They're cutting through! Tulak lunged for the emergency transmitter. This is Beta Group to command. We're under attack by native oceanic humanoids. Repeat, ocean dwellers have tech. They're breaching our... The signal died. Water roared into the command center, Tulak's last glimpse, just before the emergency lights sputtered and darkness took hold, was a face pressed against the forward viewport, disturbingly human. Gills fluttered at its neck. Bioluminescent eyes stared through him, glowing like deep-sea fire. And it smiled. Rows of razor teeth, needle-thin and far too many. Back aboard Inevitable Victory, chaos bloomed across the bridge. We've lost contact with Beta, Officer Jex announced, voice tight. Last report. They said they were under attack. By what? Zarov asked. Jex hesitated. Spit it out, Jex. By indigenous oceanic life forms, sir. With advanced weaponry. Humanoids mere people, sir. A stunned silence fell over the bridge. Captain Locks was the first to recover. That's impossible. Our surveys showed no signs of intelligent aquatic life forms, yet here we are, Zarov said dryly. 2 assault groups gone and reports of singing fish people. I'm starting to disappearance of assault group. Delta think our intelligence department needs a serious overhaul. He turned to the tactical display. Where's Group Echo approaching the coordinates? Now, sir, they should reach Group Beta's last known position in approximately 12 minutes. Zarov nodded. Put me through to their commander, the communications. Officer opened a channel. Commander Vex of Assault Group Echo, standing by Commander. This is Fleet Commander Zarov. Proceed with extreme caution. Group Beta encountered hostile, indigenous forces before we lost contact. These hostiles appear to be aquatic humanoids. With advanced technological capabilities, aquatic humanoids. Sir, you mean like mere people? I don't care if they are riding seahorses and wielding trident. Commander, they have taken out 2 of our assault groups. Already approach with all weapons. Hot and maintain constant communication. Understood, sir. We will static suddenly. Interrupted the transmission. Commander Vex Zarov leaned forward. Report through the interference. They heard Vex's voice tinged with panic. Something's approaching massive. Signatures, multiple directions, the singing, it's in our heads. Somehow it can't maintain the transmission cut to complete static. Zarov stood perfectly still for exactly 3 seconds, then exploded into action. Evacuate all remaining underwater forces immediately. Redirect our orbital cannons to target Earth's oceans. I want whatever's down there turned into steam, sire. Lieutenant Mira looked horrified. The Supreme Command Protocol specifically forbids orbital bombardment until Phase 3. We are still in Phase 1. Does it look like I care about phases right now, Lieutenant? We have lost 3 assault groups in less than a day. That's over 2,000 troops before Mira could respond. The ship's alarm began blaring. Officer Jex's face went pale as he checked his console. Sir, we are detecting multiple objects ascending from Earth's oceans at high-velocity trajectory, indicates they are heading directly for our fleet. Zarov's eyes widened. Show the main view screen activated. Oceans are effectively empty territory. Meanwhile, they have had an entire civilization living under the waves, just waiting for someone stupid enough to invade. Sir Jex called out, his voice cracking. The first wave will reach our outer defense perimeter. In 30 seconds, Zarov dropped back into his command chair. Battle stations. All ships prepare for engagement, and somebody get me Supreme Command on the line. Tell them their easy conquest just turned into a war. The first contact between the Dominion, Fleet, and Earth's oceanic forces was brief, brutal, and entirely one-sided. The silver vessels, which human communications later identified as belonging to the Atlantic Alliance, tore through the Dominion's outer defenses like they were made of paper. Their weapons, some kind of focused sonic technology, bypassed shields designed to stop energy, and projectiles liquefying hull plating and the unfortunate crew members behind it. Within minutes, 7 Dominion warships had been disabled or destroyed. With their remaining fleet, including the inevitable Victory, had pulled back to regroup behind the moon. In the ship's strategy room, Zarov faced the holographic projection of Supreme Commander Drez, whose purple face had darkened to nearly black with rage. You retreated? Drez's voice could have frozen lava without authorization. With respect, Supreme Commander, we were facing complete annihilation. The oceanic forces have technology we have never encountered before. Their weapons cut through our defenses like they weren't even there. Impossible. Earth is a pre-space civilization. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles and primitive laser systems. Zarov struggled to keep his tone respectful. Apparently, their land forces are pre-space. Their ocean-dwelling population is significantly more advanced. Ocean-dwelling. You expect me to believe humans have an advanced underwater civilization that our entire intelligence apparatus somehow missed. Not human. Sir, at least not entirely, they appear to be a related but distinct species, humanoid but adapted for aquatic life. Draz's eyes narrowed to slits. Show me. Zarov nodded to Lieutenant Mira, who activated the display showing footage captured from one of the destroyed submarines. The image was grainy but clear enough to show the mere warriors breaching the hull. Dre fell silent, his rage temporarily displaced by shock. Supreme Commander Zarov continued. I recommend an immediate reassessment of our invasion strategy. We need to know. Draz interrupted. The invasion continues as planned. I'm dispatching the Second Fleet to your position with their additional firepower. You will obliterate these fish people and proceed with the land invasion, sir, with all due respect. This conversation is over. Fleet Commander, hold your position until reinforcements arrive. That's an order. The holographic projection disappeared, leaving Zarov staring at empty space. Captain Lox cleared his throat orders. Sir Zarov turned to the room of officers, all watching him expectantly. Prepare for the arrival of the Second Fleet and start analyzing every piece of data we have on these oceanic forces, weapons, ships, biology, everything. If we are oceanic counterattack, continuing this invasion, we are not going in blind again as the officers dispersed to their duties. Zarov remained alone in the strategy room, staring at the frozen image of the mere warrior on the screen. Its eyes seemed to look directly at him, filled with intelligence and what he could only interpret as grim satisfaction. "You were waiting for us," he murmured to the image. "All this time hiding beneath the waves, developing your technology, preparing for the day someone would be foolish enough to invade." For the first time in his long military career, Fleet Commander Zarov felt something he'd never expected to experience during what should have been a routine conquest. A fear something told him that the ocean's secrets were only beginning to reveal themselves, and that the Dominion had made a catastrophic mistake in choosing Earth as its next target. And the singing "What Was That?" about the Second Fleet arrived with the kind of excessive pageantry that made Zarov wonder if Supreme Commander Dre had personally choreographed their entrance. 25 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their engines glowing with ominous purple light as they took position alongside the battered remnants of the First Fleet. Admiral Rexus, commander of the Second Fleet and Draz's personal favorite, wasted no time arranging a meeting aboard. The inevitable victory. Zarov had met him once before and found him to possess all the charm and personality of a particularly ambitious Brick Fleet commander. Rexus greeted, not bothering to hide his disdain as he strode onto the bridge. "I understand you have allowed primitive aquatic life forms to decimate your forces." Zarov smiled thinly. "Admiral, how kind of you to phrase it as if I personally invited them. To destroy 7 of our warships, would you perhaps like to see the actual combat footage before you continue insulting the soldiers who die?" Drexus sniffed, his 6 nostrils flaring simultaneously. "I have reviewed the relevant data. This mere warriors. Caught you by surprise, that won't happen again. Is that so? And what brilliant strategy has the Supreme Command devised to counter an enemy we know almost nothing about?" "Overwhelming force," Rexus said, as if explaining to a particularly slow child. "We will target their underwater cities with our new quantum torpedoes. Each one has the explosive yield to vaporize everything within a 50-kilometer radius." Lieutenant Mira, who had been quietly monitoring communications nearby, looked up sharply. "Admiral, we haven't located any underwater cities yet. Our scans can't penetrate beyond a certain depth. Then we will target every oceanic trench, every deep sea formation," Rexus declared. "If they are hiding down there, we will flush them out or destroy them where they live." Zarov exchanged a glance with Captain Lox, who for once seemed to share his concern. "Admiral, with respect, such an indiscriminate attack could have unforeseen consequences. Earth's oceans appear to be far more complex than our intelligence suggested." "Are you questioning Supreme Command's orders?" Fleet Commander Rexus's voice dropped dangerously low. "I'm suggesting we gather more information before potentially provoking an enemy that has already demonstrated technological superiority." In their home environment, Rexus straightened his uniform, creaking with the motion. "Your caution has been noted and ignored. The attack will. The Second Fleet arrives, commence in 6 hours. Prepare your remaining ships to support the operation." As Rexus turned to leave, Officer Jex called out from his station, "Sir, we are detecting movement from Earth's oceans again." All eyes turned to the main view screen. Unlike the previous attack, this time it wasn't sleek silver vessels rising from the waters. Instead, a single massive object was slowly emerging from the Atlantic Ocean. "Magnify," Zarov ordered. The image zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be an enormous structure breaking the surface. Its architecture defied conventional design, with sweeping curves and spiraling towers that seemed to be made of some crystalline material that shimmered with internal light. "What is that?" Rexus demanded a weapon. I don't believe so. Admiral Captain Locke said, consulting his data, it appears to be a city, or perhaps a diplomatic vessel of some kind, as they watched the massive structure continued to rise until it floated. Majestically on the ocean's surface, water cascading from its sides, it was easily several kilometers across a breathtaking display of engineering that made their own ships look primitive by comparison. We are receiving a transmission communications officer. Wren announced. It's being broadcast on all frequencies in over 200 different languages. Zarov nodded. Let's hear it. The bridge speakers crackled to life, and a voice unlike any they had heard before filled the room. It was simultaneously masculine and feminine, and seemed to contain harmonics that made the air itself vibrate pleasantly. Attention vessels of the Galactic Dominion. This is Ambassador Nerissa of the Atlantic Alliance, speaking on behalf of the United Oceanic Nations of Earth. Your unprovoked aggression against our territories constitutes an act of war to which we have responded accordingly. However, we are willing to discuss terms of your immediate surrender and withdrawal. Admiral Rexus's face contorted with rage. Surrender to a bunch of fish people, open a channel, I will show them what happens. To species that defy the Dominion wait. Zarov moved to block him. Admiral, they just revealed their command center. This is our chance to gather crucial intelligence. Rexus hesitated, then nodded curtly. Fine, open the channel. But keep weapon systems locked on that floating monstrosity. The view screen shifted to show the interior of what appeared to be a vast open chamber. Standing, or perhaps floating at its center, was a figure that caused several bridge officers to gasp. Audibly, Ambassador Nerissa was humanoid, but with differences. That marked her as something other than the land-dwelling humans they had studied. Her skin had a faint blue tinge with what appeared to be tiny scales catching the light when she moved. Heels pulsed gently along her neck, and her eyes were large, silver and lacked visible pupils. Most striking was her hair, which moved as if underwater, despite the apparently dry environment. Strands of white and deep blue, intertwining like living tentacles. I am Admiral Rexus of the Galactic Dominion, Rexus announced, puffing out his chest. Your attack on our vessels is an act of aggression that will not stand. Surrender your weapons and submit to Dominion rule. Ambassador Nerissa's offerer face complete annihilation. Ambassador Nerissa's expression remained serene, almost amused. Admiral, perhaps you misunderstand the situation. Your forces invaded our territory. We defended ourselves. The current balance of power does not favor your fleet. She gestured gracefully, and the view widened to show dozens of silver vessels now surrounding thee.